A showdown in the Supreme Court. Will companies like Hobby Lobby have to provide contraception despite their religious beliefs? With me, Chief Counsel at the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow. Good evening, Jay.
Hey, Judge.
All right, a lot at stake here. Although this Supreme Court has affirmed the individual mandate, the justices this time seemed a little more skeptical. Your thoughts?
Well, I think they were skeptical for a good reason. The central portion of the argument is going to be whether a corporation has the right to exercise a freedom of religion issue. The courts already recognize that corporations have free speech rights. Now the question is, do they have free exercise rights? In other words, can the owners of a privately held company put forward their particular viewpoints in their employment policies? And I think the answer to that, unless absent a compelling governmental interest, the answer should be yes. So it looked like the court, and it's always hard, I've argued enough of these to know, it's very hard to predict where the court's going to be. But based on what we heard in the oral arguments, and frankly, the way most of the lower courts have gone, including the courts of appeals, they have recognized the corporation's right to do this. And by the way, they're only opting out of covering four contraceptive devices or medications. They provide literally over 100 others. It's just four that these companies, some of them are Catholic companies, other evangelical companies that have particular views. That's the position they're taking. This should not be really a close case, quite frankly, Judge.
You know, before the decision, Jay, came down on the individual mandate, we started hearing and reading about how political the Supreme Court was. My take, I thought it was a threat to intimidate the justices. And in fact, Justice Roberts changed his position on the individual mandate. And so the vote was 5-4 to sustain that. What's your take on that?
Look, I think I disagree with John Roberts, the Chief Justice, on that. I've known the Chief a long time. I'm a friend of his. I disagree with his opinion. But I don't think it was political pressure. I think he calls it balls and strikes. He said he was going to be an umpire. That's the way he saw it. I think it was incorrect. I would have gone the other way, as Justice Kennedy did in that case. But look, I mean, the reality is the country is best served by a Supreme Court of the United States that's not politically based. That's why the founders gave life tenure. And I think even when the court rules against the position I'm advocating, I still respect, and I know you do as a judge, respect the institution of the court, even when they get it wrong. I think they got it wrong in the mandate case, as you mentioned.
That's not the issue, Jay. I think the issue is that for the first time I was reading in the newspapers and this buzz about, oh, it's really political, and the Supreme Court as an institution couldn't afford to be labeled as political. And, you know, I almost thought that there was an intimidation factor. But one quick question before I go. Is this about the First Amendment right of religious freedom being trumped by the Obama administration?
That's really what at the end of the day, that's what the case is about. Can the administration, through its laws and policies, discriminate against, in this case, the free exercise rights of these privately held businesses? And you said it right. It really, contraceptives, abortion, whatever you might take your position on that, the idea is, can the administration compel a viewpoint that the owners of the business disagree with, absent a compelling governmental interest? And I don't think they can, but that's exactly what this is.
All right, Jay. Hopefully a decision in June.
Thanks, Judge.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks.
And Pope Francis and Vatican officials told President Obama they were concerned about religious freedom in the United States. Was this the Pope's way of criticizing Obamacare? With me now, Father Gerald Murray. Thanks for being with us, Father. You know, the meeting between the President and Pope Francis, I mean, we're hearing two different versions, one from the Vatican and one from the White House. Which do you believe?
Well, I believe that the Vatican made it very clear, the Pope himself and then his Secretary of State, Cardinal Parolin, telling the President of the United States we're very concerned about religious liberty, conscience rights, and the right to life. The idea that President Obama, as he said, he admires the Pope, and he says he'd like to continue his dialogue or discussion with the U.S. bishops. Well, if he admires the Pope, he should not offend the Pope's bishops here in this country by compelling them to go to court, which is precisely what we have.
Do you think it's hypocritical for the President to meet with the Pope the same week that he's fighting Hobby Lobby in the United States Supreme Court?
Well, let's just say it's inconsistent to go to Rome and say, I admire you as a great man, but the things you teach, I'm going to try to suppress in the country where I come from, which is what the lawyer just said. This is about religious freedom being suppressed by the government.
And what about the fact that, the President was all smiles with the Pope, and yet I understand there was a meeting with Cardinal Dolan And, there was a promise or a claim that religious freedom wouldn't be affected by Obamacare.
This is exactly what it gets back to. When Cardinal Dolan was the head of the bishops' conference, he met with the president. It was a meeting in the White House, and he told him, you have nothing to worry about. Religious concerns will be dealt with. He didn't do it. He changed it, just like if you like your policy, you can keep it. Apparently, if you like your religion, I'm going to bring you to try and stop you, and you have to go to court to protect yourself. It's, let's say, inconsistency is the word I'd use, and it's very troubling because religious freedom is not a minor issue. This is one of the foundational principles of this country. The Pilgrim Fathers did not come here so that a president could stand up and say, you believe this, you can't do that. No. We believe what we believe, and we do accordingly because that's our right.
What do you think the Supreme Court is going to do, Father?
As an observer, I'll say I think they're going to fall on our side, the side of religious freedom, because, again, this is fundamental. We are in a country where the government tells us what we have to think, do, or say. And if we get into the position where they can hand you a script and say, you can only read this, you can only do what we tell you, we're not in the same country that was founded.
Well, clearly. And your parishioners, what are they saying about their religious freedom being in jeopardy? I mean, do they recognize that this is a huge issue for the Catholic Church?
Well, we pray for it almost every Sunday in our petitions, and certainly they recognize Cardinal Dolan, our bishop here in New York, has had to go to court. Cardinal Dolan didn't want to go to court. He wanted the administration to back off. And by the way, that's the interesting thing. President Obama can call up the Secretary of Health and Human Services, say, eliminate that provision. This isn't in the law. This is a regulation making the nuns. Why would you go against Catholic nuns, making them give contraception to employees? Catholic nuns are trying to serve Christ.
But so what is he thinking? I mean, the Little Sisters of the Poor, dragging them to the United States Supreme Court?
It's not a good idea. Unfortunately, it reveals kind of a vision for the country in which religion is a subject that has to be controlled by the government. And really, behind this is an idea, Catholic teaching about abortion and contraception is irrational. I would dispute that. I think it's very rational. I'll explain it to you if you want to hear it sometime. But to take people and say, look, your beliefs don't hold, you have to go to court if you want us to stop. No, this is not American. This is not how this country was founded.
Well, we'll learn by hopefully June. Father Murray, always good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
And coming up, the Obama administration says they've got 6 million enrollees for Obamacare. After what we've been through, can we even believe them?
How are we looking here, Charlie?
All sectors are looking great.
Excellent.
Hey, you guys doing?
Oh, well, we're double-checking the distributed antenna system. So when all you fans post to Instagram, there'll be more network to handle it.
So, you guys hiring?
Do you know how to optimize a 9-beam multi-beam antenna system?
Nope. That a deal breaker?
Pretty much.
All right.
Enjoy the show.
AT&T is building you a better network.
Parents want to know what's going on with testing and standards.
As teachers, we're on the front lines, and we're excited